Welcome, Jonny. Welcome to Netanel. And
Thank you.
This is the introduction we've been waiting for.
Yes, I'm very excited.
Good to see you. Sorry I'm outside. I didn't get a chance to get back into my home yet, but I'm heading there now.
No worries.
Jonny, if you noticed Netanel's awesome t-shirt that she's wearing.
I love it. I like it.
Thank you.
Very cool.
So I wanted to just give some sense of direction for this meeting. It should probably take no longer than 15, 20 minutes, but this is the formal introduction between Netanel Crispe and Jonny Ross. Netanel Crispe is the originator of saving Vermont's oldest Jewish cemetery project, which has gotten worldwide attention. And Jonny is my partner here at PreservUs. So Netanel is going to be sharing a brief story about who he is, his background, and how he got started with this project. And let's get this party started. Netanel, take
Awesome. Okay, yeah, so my name is Netanel Crispe. I'm 18 years old and currently a senior in high school in Manchester, Vermont. I live in the small and rural town of Danby, Vermont, and I'm a Hasidic Jew. And basically, I've always just absolutely loved history and really have just felt a strong attachment to learning from it and researching and just kind of interacting with it in my daily life. Living in a colonial house and being surrounded by all aspects of our past has really allowed me to immerse myself in that way. So it's just been amazing. And basically going straight into the cemetery project, for the last 6 years, I have metal detected on behalf of different historical societies and museums around the state of Vermont. And this past summer, while metal detecting in the town of Pulteney, I was introduced to a home which I'd been informed was a Jewish synagogue, which came to me as a great surprise, as I had never known such a thing, and I knew the town quite well. The house dates back to the late 1700s, and the owners kindly gave me permission to metal detect around it. And while kind of in conversation with them at the beginning of the summer, I was basically asked if I'd ever heard of the Jewish cemetery up the road. And once again, I was in disbelief. And I was very taken aback and asked for directions. They were kind enough to provide those. It took me actually 3 times to find, as it was completely overgrown and I couldn't see it. And I was really expecting to find a small plot like you generally see in these kind of areas, with maybe a headstone or two, just a few people, and was just shocked to discover on my 3rd attempt that it was actually a full Jewish cemetery hidden across the street from the main cemetery in town. And upon entering in, I was both ecstatic to discover this remarkable piece of history, but also kind of really distraught and disappointed to find so many of the old headstones broken, fragmented, lying in the dirt. Many of the Hebrew texts completely illegible due to wear and moss and other things like that. And I decided that I was both determined to discover and research and find out who these people were and how did they come to be here, residing in the middle of nowhere in Vermont. And also I felt that was my responsibility to begin this effort to preserve their history and their story, and give them the attention and appreciation that they deserve. So from that point on, I started this effort to restore Vermont's oldest Jewish cemetery, which again was just remarkable to discover that this was in fact the oldest Jewish cemetery in the state of Vermont from 1873, excuse me. And since then, I've been working for the last 5 or 6 months doing that. I've started a GoFundMe campaign, which is through which I've raised over $16,000, and we're now going into our next phase, partnering with the support of PreservUs to go into the next stage of work and begin doing other things this spring. So I'm very excited and looking forward to the future.
That's amazing, Netanel. Thank you so much for sharing. Yeah, your story is just really inspirational. And one thing about all the fans that we have at PreservUs is that they have some sort of sense, they share a sense of importance of preserving and and maintaining dignity for those that have passed. And the fact that you came across this on your own with no intention of having a business in mind like we have, but rather just felt this self-imposed need that you need to be the one to right this wrong is truly phenomenal. So I applaud you for that.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Sorry, it's truly one of those things that recognizing, and I know I'm not the only person, but sadly I feel as though many people my age don't really have this appreciation for those people that came before us. And it's really sad because history, I've always felt, is the foundation on which everything is built. And I knew that if I didn't do this, no one else would. And this had been sitting here for such a long time, really just in disregarded and ignored and forgotten by so many. So that was the goal.
I just want to add, I know you said that if you don't do this, no one else would, and that's 100% correct. But recognize that you're no longer alone, and
yes.
You have so much support from people, not only in your local community in Vermont, but from the entire state, communities all across America, and internationally as well. So I wanted to ask you a few questions. When you say that you're going to save Vermont's oldest Jewish cemetery, what sort of issues are you going to be addressing that you would like to fix? And what were your initial the initial problems you wanted to fix?
Yeah, so kind of as an overarching principle, of course, there were two factors that were in the back of my head going into this. One, during COVID and seeing all the kind of melancholy kind of surrounding the world at this time, I really want to make this project a combined effort, bring people together, both digitally through this work, and also just across the world, and give people hope, find the light in the darkness, both literally through kind of cleaning the headstones and seeing the bright marble come out after you wash away the moss, but also just this message of you can find good in any dark place, and really giving everybody hope in this effort and giving them something good to look forward to. So that was one of the primary goals. And then, of course, also to share my love and passion for history and the importance of learning from it and preserving it, so that we can ensure that these people and the great things that they did in their stories are not forgotten, and that they get the respect they truly deserve. So then going into the actual restoration aspect of that, number one goal, of course, has been to fully restore every headstone in the cemetery. There's roughly 83 stones ranging all the way from 1874 up until 2018, with the majority of them dating back to the latter 19th century into the early 20th century. And then just a handful dating further on, with those being descendants of those who are initially buried there who have family plots. So that's the number one goal. This includes anything from scrubbing down some of the newer stones to whole resetting, foundation work, and kind of rebuilding of those fractured and damaged headstones. And then this also will include, of course, brush clearing, which I've already begun this fall. I went in with a few groups of volunteers. We already started clearing back the brush on the fence line so that people can see the cemetery and know it's there and find it. And then also removing any dangers such as trees that could fall over and break stones and anything like that. And then the last part, of course, is also the recognition, making this available to the public, letting people know about it, and being able to bring people here so that they can give their respects, and just be able to learn more about this forgotten group and this forgotten history. So these people who are buried in the Pulteney Cemetery, who founded in 1873, founded the first Jewish community in the state of Vermont, the first kind of established community. They had the first synagogue. All of this existed, and almost none of it is kind of still remembered to this day. So in an effort to preserve that, we're both doing working to get a gate placed in front of the cemetery saying East Pulteney Jewish Cemetery, something of that nature, so that people know it's there, because as of now there's no official address, and unless you actually go in and see the Hebrew inscriptions or the Star of David, you wouldn't even know that it's a Jewish cemetery. So that's number one. I'm also applying for a state historic marker and trying to get it on the state historic registry so that everybody can find it online and everywhere else. And then, of course, working with PreservUs, one of the most important things is documenting the location of these people, their histories, their stories, and genealogies and everything else. So putting that online for everyone around the world to have access to, and so that they can come and find these people and really just experience this with me as well. So
That's that. Well, you said it perfectly. You know, you're really taking this cemetery, which is almost 150 years old, and bringing it back to life the way it's intended to be, by really restoring a sense of honor and dignity to these headstones, so that they're presentable, so that they can be visited for generations to come. And you touched upon this partnership we have, and I just want to share with our audience to give them some color about how we got in touch. So as Netanel mentioned, he started this project with restoration efforts from A to Z, and that's where PreservUs comes in. So about 3.5 weeks ago, I was actually in Florida, and my friend's wife tagged me in the original Bennington Banner Facebook article, and said, just like, tag Ari Sohn. Okay, you know, let me read this article, let me find out this kid. And I saw the story, and I decided to, I think I left a comment saying I'd love to talk, and your mom commented saying, oh, my son's not on Facebook, but like, here's his number or something like that. And
yes.
just started from there, started talking. We had that first initial phone call back the first week of December, and right now it's December 30th. And after hearing all of the physical restoration efforts, I shared what PreservUs does with the digitization component. And just to briefly explain to anyone who's listening what digitization is we create unique GPS locations and profiles for each headstone, just like, for example, Google Maps. So instead of searching where your local Starbucks is on the Google Maps, and you have a little the GPS marker that pops up. When you click on it, you have the photos, the reviews, you have the directions, and all of that sort. Similarly with headstones, what we do is when you search a name such as Barbara Smith populates on the map, and you could click on her profile. You can see an HD photo of the headstone. You can see all the relevant information, names, dates, family member history, and one of the most important things would be the directions, and is the directions to the exact location of that grave so you can go visit. And this, I felt, really ties in well, because while Netanel is restoring the current state of these headstones through digitization, we can create an everlasting memorial for each one of these headstones for people to visit until the end of time, because our app is hosted in the cloud. This information is not going anywhere. And after hearing your story and just describing what we offer to do, I realized it was the perfect match, because we both share a similar mission. And with that having the same values, we'll really be able to take this project to where it is. And on top of that, part of this partnership is going to be more than just digitization. PreservUs has every intention of holding your hand from well, you've already started, but once we get up hopefully this April, and with some other preliminary work we've been doing with scheduling the different bodies that will be helping us with this project, from restoration, from doing the health checks and having all the right people in place with volunteers, etc. PreservUs is hoping that we can continue our streak of community service while also offering a business technological solution to this project. And as of now, so far, PreservUs has cleaned up and restored over 15,000 headstones in, I think, about eight states now: New Jersey, New York, Vermont. We've already been to Vermont. You're not going to be the first time. Massachusetts, Maryland, North Carolina, South Carolina, and Florida as well. So I am super excited, and I'm just stoked to get this relationship off the ground, which we already have. But I'm waiting down the days till I get to meet you in person, hopefully this April.
Yes.
I'm just going to ask Jonny to jump in to share some of his thoughts now that he has been welcomed into the project officially and knows the whole background story.
Yeah, no, this is great, Netanel. Very good to meet you, and you know, it's really incredible. You know, your name, Netanel. We look at this opportunity as it's a gift from God to
Thank you.
you know to work in service of the people who are no longer here. You know, chesed ve'emet is what is referred to in the Parsha this week. On actually the Chabad website talks about the true beauty of doing work for people, for souls for whom there's no reward, there's no material reward. No one's paying us to do this for them. They're not paying us. We're doing it in their honor. So I think it's kind of interesting that, you know, it's very interesting, your story. I find it very inspirational. I'm sure that there's a lot of, particularly in Europe, there's a lot of buildings that probably have a similar history. So maybe we can also inspire through this experience other people, in particularly in some of the European places where those communities tragically disappeared. In your case, I mean, it's also really interesting. It's bite-sized in a sense that you could do it. It can be done, and you just look at the GoFundMe response. It shows, and this has been our experience, both myself and Ari talking to people. The young people have nowadays, in particular, have increased interest now in the history and the legacy of community, of people. No one lives, really, I mean, very few people live in the same town where they grew up these days, and certainly not in the same town where 3 generations ago grew up, especially if we're all immigrants. I mean, I'm a 3rd generation immigrant, now 1st generation to the US, but 3rd generation to the UK. You know, there's no way I could find stuff about my relatives. Now, though, we're setting things right, we're getting the right course, and I think, you know, it'll be really great, I think, as we get to know each other better. We also have 1 or 2 really big projects that we're going to develop our skill sets together for. And
Stay tuned for those, everybody.
And hopefully to really focus in on, and you know, very pleased, very, very impressed and inspired by you. It's a real honor to meet you, and we look forward. Unfortunately, I don't think I'll be able to physically join you all in the next few months, but maybe a slightly longer time frame. I'll be back on the East Coast.
Why is that? Jonny, where are you right now? Where are you calling in from?
Let's discuss that on a separate broadcast for our friends. But in it's like a somewhat tropical location. Yeah, I mean, you know, really, thank you very much. Really, you know, this is really exciting, and you know, you've added a lot of thought in that. Think about it, even if you just were to restore what you said about cleaning off the stone and it just reemerges into the physical world. It's a really beautiful concept and idea, and it's mirrored in, of course, in Jewish mysticism and in other philosophies. So thank you, and you know, really appreciate the chance to work with you, and I like the T-shirt very much.
Thank you.
I know a guy who might be selling them. Unfortunately, I'm not wearing mine. But,
yeah, and to anyone who hasn't guessed yet, Netanel was the recipient of the mystery T-shirt that we sent out last week, and I'm really glad that he gets to officially wear the original first batch of PreservUs swag. So we're going to tie up the meeting here, but just to piggyback off of what Jonny said to tie things together, Jonny spoke about inspiration. And one motto that I live by is inspire action by taking action. A lot of people feel the need to, a lot of people feel this need to be inspired. They want to be inspired. It motivates them. But where does that come from? A lot of times people think that it has to come from an external source, from somebody else. Once I see someone else do something good, that will then allow me to go do the type of good deeds I want to do. And while that is very true, if we take our own action, we can be those people that inspire the action for others. So inspire action by taking action. And you've done that. You have burdened the responsibility of this project, and you have inspired hundreds and thousands of people all over the world from all different communities. And I'm so glad to have you on this team.
Thank you so much. And I'm so very much looking forward to the opportunity to work together and see what great things we accomplish. And it's been a pleasure getting to meet you and being able to be a part of this community. And I'm ecstatic, and I just can't wait.
Amazing. All right.
All
So
the best.
thank you everybody for joining us. This has been PreservUs. We're not your average tech startup. I'll talk to you guys later. Have a good night.
Have a good night. Bye.
Bye.